Welcome everybody. Here we are, another edition of Staying Connected, the Amros Promotions virtual lunches that have now firmly established themselves as the place to be every other Friday at 2 p.m. Of course, the great benefit being that that place is wherever you choose. So it could be the study, the home office, the front room, the conservatory, or if you're a really, really big fan, the downstairs loo. Nothing wrong with that, we don't judge. Could be Greece, of course, where I gather we have a guest from today. So hello to Shrey Brambat, who's joining us from Greece this afternoon. Welcome to you, sir. Nice to see we're stretching across the continents, even if we can't get there ourselves. This afternoon, we put together a couple of great speakers for you to help inform and entertain, hopefully in that order. And of course, you're welcome to take part by chucking in some questions for our guests as well. We do always appreciate you taking an hour out for us. We do hope to make it worth your while. And as always, ask that to get the best experience from this rather large Zoom chat we've got on our hands today. Just make sure you are set to watch in speaker view. Check that your mic is muted as well. So if you haven't done that yet, please do that now. But also make sure that your camera is on at the same time as well, even if you really are in the downstairs. So basically, go to speaker view at the top, make sure your mic is muted and keep your camera on. Now shortly I'll be introducing our two guests for this afternoon's edition of Staying Connected, which is pretty much the nearest we can get to the usual lunch and gatherings that Amros like to organise. Obviously with mass gatherings still not permitted. I know we have just seen a relaxing of the rules for individuals to go and stay at another house to create a bubble, or maybe create babies, as it may end up being, or maybe breakups, depending on who's going to whose house. So I think it's safer for everyone probably that we just stick to doing things this way, and aiding us in doing it today, we want to say a big thank you to the sponsor of our lunch today, Clover HR. Now, as I said earlier, you can get questions to our panel today. The chat function is alive and kicking and ready for you to chip in. Just remember to let us know who the question's for, what it is, and who you are and which company you're from. There's a prize draw from everyone who sends in a question. Winner will get a bottle of wine from the brilliant Bottles of Worcester. Congratulations to our last winner, who was Andy Matthews. Put a great question into our last guest, who was footballer Don Goodman, and asked him about his desire to celebrate a goal doing the dance from the I Feel Like Chicken Tonight adverts. That's what won. That's the standards we're setting, so Mr. Tindall, you have been warned. Shortly we'll hear from our sponsor. It's Michael Doolin from Clover HR, someone from an industry which has certainly been at the heart of developments in business over the last couple of months. Michael, afternoon, sir. Just want to check in you're with us and we can hear you okay. Which room have you chosen to join us from today? Of course, we have another guest joining us as well this afternoon, who, never know, may get a longer slot than he was anticipating at the minute. Our rugby legend and World Cup winner, Mr. Mike Tindall, MBE. I was going to ask you the same question, Mike, although which wing are you joining us from today?
I am at home, but I'm sat, it was really quite warm when I first sat outside, and now it's hammering down with rain, but I'm not going to move. I'm going to tough it out. Rugby player, got a t-shirt on, all sorts. Yeah, makes me feel like I'm back on the pitch.
Yeah, funny time of year is this for weather-wise, and I suppose you know about playing out in particularly different conditions. I get that. So obviously, before we come and chat to you, we were going to hopefully hear from Mr. Doolin. Mr. Doolin, are you back with us? Connected and ready? Well, we'll keep an ear out for you. Don't worry. Pop in at any point. Fine. Before we go into any of today's conversations, what I do want to do is introduce the charity we're helping support today with our first ever virtual lunch auction. I'll tell you more about that in a little bit, but hopefully the person to rock up and start speaking now is Vince Hopkins from Wooden Spoon. Hello, Vince.
Hey, Hursty, how are you?
Very good, very good. Tell us a little bit about Wooden Spoon for those that don't know.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everybody. And firstly, thank you to Neil, and thank you to the virtual Michael Doolin for giving us the opportunity just to talk very quickly about Wooden Spoon. It is the children's charity of rugby. And just for a bit of history, Wooden Spoon actually started in about 1983. And it started in a pub in Dublin, which is normally a very good place to start many things. And England had just been defeated quite badly over there in the Five Nations. It was Five Nations at that time. And obviously, because they came bottom of the table, they were awarded the Wooden Spoon. So some of the English lads were having a few beers in one of the pubs in Dublin, and the locals got together and took over an actual wooden spoon on a tray to them just to sort of take the mick a bit. If that had been football, I imagine there'd been a fight, but because it was rugby, what actually happened was that became an organisation, and that organisation has now raised about £30 million nationally for disadvantaged children up and down the country, which is some very humble beginnings. Wooden Spoon then breaks down in, it's a national charity, but it's a regional structure. So it's normally around counties. So you'll have a Dorset wooden spoon and a Devon wooden spoon. And to be honest, Mike, there's probably even a Gloucestershire wooden spoon, but there's actually a Worcestershire wooden spoon as well, which is sort of very alive and kicking. And that's chaired by John Gibson, who a lot of you will know. All the work is actually done by Laura Osborne, as all of you will know. And we basically raise a lot of money through different events. Last year was probably the best year we've had. We raised over £30,000, and that was because of the generosity of the sponsors and the donations that came in across Worcestershire. And the great thing about Wooden Spoon is actually all the money that you raise gets spent locally. We build things, we build projects, so we work with schools a lot. So project number 1 that we're now financing this year is for a sensory room at Dines Green, the academy. The second project we're able to go ahead with this year is a running track for a school in Stourport. So thank you to everybody who's helped us raise that amount of money. We entered 2020 with a full agenda. We had sponsors for every single event, and we're looking forward to doing exactly the same again. Unfortunately, we all know what's happened in 2020 and the lockdown and the stopping of events, and it's affected all charities, not just Wooden Spoon, and all charities are going to find it very tough, not just at the moment, but going forward as well. So thank you very much indeed for the opportunity to put up this this auction prize, because all the money that you do raise, as I say, we'll spend it locally. We did have an advantage also this year of having a cheque from the centre from Wooden Spoon of £5,000 for us to do with what we could do with whether it's a project. And in fact, we decided to do something a bit different, and we split it up and we gave £1,000 to 5 local children's charities, very small charities as well, where £1,000 makes a hell of a difference. So we chose charities in Malvern and Evesham, in Norwich and Worcester, just so we could cover the county. So we're there, we're trying to raise money, trying to do good. And that's really about it, other than thank you once again. And the bids will be coming in for the auction. Hursty, I've actually had the first bid, if you don't mind, on the auction prize. And the first bid is for £200, and it's come from a Mrs. Tracy Jane Hopkins, who has said, "I'm sorry I can't be here, but that git of a husband who's been driving me mad in lockdown for the last 10 weeks should pay for it." So there's a bid of £200 already in. Richard, back to you.
Great start. Thank you very much, Vince. Great start there. Well, there it is. We've kicked things off straight away, which is a really good start on that. 200 quid. Thank you very much, Lady Hopkins. It's always handy to know. So we have the auction, of course, the signed presentation from Mike's career and some great images on that. So if you'd like to chip in, you can. We have the bids already submitted, and it kind of makes sense that we kind of keep things this way around, I suppose, to just take your bids via either the email that we contacted you on today, or more useful, the chat function that we've got going, and we will keep an eye on it across the afternoon. We're going to close the auction when Mr. Tindall finishes his chat. He may be starting it earlier than planned as well in a minute. So as Vince says there, we're sitting at 200 quid so far. If you can chuck in a bid now, or want to see what else comes in before you can, then that's the best way to attempt to grab the lot. Okay, so there you go. If you haven't seen it yet, you can get a good look at that. Some excellent images there of Mr. Tindall. Excellent images in action. So, not that there's been a great deal of build up to it, but Mike Doolan, we have a slot for you, sir. If you're in and we could hear you, you're welcome to tell us a little bit about Clover HR and the situation as it's been over the last couple of months, and a bit about yourself as well. I can see you. We're almost ready to hear you. You've got something for us. I'll cross everything.
My name is Michael Doolan. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Managing Director of Clover HR. We are an outsourced HR business providing support, advice, guidance to roughly 50 businesses now in the area. We've been particularly busy in the last few weeks and months, actually, in terms of supporting business through major change. We've seen the worst of the business landscape that I've ever seen in 30 odd years, and it continues to exercise a lot of caution, a lot of serious thinking about how I'm going to run my business, and the HR community have been particularly to the fore in supporting business through that.
We've lost you there. I think it sounds a little bit of an issue. I can hear it clipping at the side. It's a bit of a tricky one to plough through it, but doesn't mean we can't move on. So look, Mike, it's a little bit earlier than you planned, but let's get on to you, seeing as you're our guest here this afternoon. We'll check in with Mike and just see if we can't get him back before the end. The auction, of course, still continues on the chat, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome to chip in on that. Closes when, well, I'd say when Mr. Tindall finishes, but you never know. We may have another mic still stored up. But look, if you're not sitting comfortably yet and you haven't got a glass in your hand, then you know, be ready for this. It's someone we're delighted to have with us today. An English rugby legend, someone who's spent almost 2 decades at the highest level and over 10 years representing his country as one of that elite group that lifted the Webb Ellis Trophy. And I think the only person, as you noticed, brave enough to do today's lunch from outside, Mr. Mike Tindall, MBE. Thank you for being with us. I hope it stays dry for you.
Yeah, no, it's all right. I'm under shelter, but it is hammering down in Gloucestershire here. But it's okay. We're all right.
And is that where you've been for most of the lockdown?
Yeah, basically, very lucky because we live on a farm, so we actually have sort of locked down as a farm because the farm had to keep working. So there's about 12 on the farm, so it's not like we haven't seen people, but we've all stayed on the farm and haven't really left. So yeah, it's been interesting. Homeschooling has I have a newfound love and respect for teachers. If anyone saw my post of me once I dropped her off, I was running like Forrest Gump away from that school. I was all right with maths, but I had her for about a week and a half. She actually thought, oh, this is really good at home with my dad learning. After that, I'd lost her. She was like, she knew she could tell me what to do. I'm bored now. I'm going. And like many other parents, probably was thinking about how I could get rid of her. But no, the thing is, on the farm as well, there is loads of stuff for the kids to do. They can go outside, and the horses, they've got better at horse riding, that's for certain. So, no, we're very lucky. But yeah, I'm a bit over it now. I'd like to be a bit more than socialising with people through Zoom calls. They always go so smoothly, don't they?
Well, as we've always proved, I know it's brilliant. And is it, and you know, how close are you to being almost done with horses as well? Because I suppose that, like you said, that has been taking up a lot of time.
I reached an all-time low when I now know how to tack up a horse. So I don't even need my wife around. I can go get the pony, put the saddle on, put the bridle on, and I was like, this needs to end. This needs to end. I need to go back to Minchinhampton Rugby Club and just hit someone or do something. So yeah, it's my horse riding has improved. That hasn't driven me to actually getting on one yet, but I know far too much about horses now that, you know, brushing them, picking out feet, it's depressing for me.
And is that the only skill you picked up? Because I know a few people have almost been measuring lockdown on the number of new things they're now able to do.
Yeah, I haven't. Unfortunately, I haven't. I picked up the harmonica to start learning at the start of lockdown, and I've got to a point where I can almost do Piano Man. But with 2 kids and them both being at home, and Zara still has to exercise and ride the horses, so she's still gone and working in the morning. So, yeah, it's just been full on. I know every education site that you can download sort of forms and quizzes for your kids to do, whether it be Twinkle, whether it be My Maths, whether it be Beehive. You know, I can give you all advice on where to go to educate your children. So that's probably been my new skill set. Rich, you're on mute now.
We get all the pros in here, man. Don't mind. Yeah. So look, well, let's go and focus on rugby, because we've heard the plans are starting to get in place for the Premiership to return in what looks like August. How do you see it coming back and potentially being played behind closed doors?
Well, it's difficult. It's difficult, isn't it? I'm really excited about tomorrow. Obviously, we get our first glimpse of rugby from New Zealand tomorrow in their cup that they've got on, and I just think the way they've jumped on it is a sort of guiding light to everything that we're going through at the moment in rugby in terms of salary caps and falling outs between clubs, players, RPA, and we haven't even touched on coronavirus yet. It's at least New Zealand have just got on. They've got on with it. I know that it's a lot smaller country and they've just shut everything down, which is why they can do it. But I don't know what's going to happen ultimately. I've just done an interview with Sky Sports, and obviously it's come out now that the clubs have now saying they won't work with the RPA. Obviously, before that, the players were saying they had a. Oh, by the way, if you keep seeing flashes of yellow, this is what happened in lockdown. Your daughter's painting your fingernails, so apologies for that.
Oh,
no.
okay, all
right. So yeah, I just don't know where they're going to go. I think ultimately the salary cap being reduced is a good thing because the system was broke. You know, the Lord that did that investigation into obviously Saracen's salary problems revealed that the clubs as a whole had lost over 80 million over the past 2 seasons. Now that is not a financial structure that is working. So if anything comes out of this coronavirus, I hope that they address this. The players understand how deep rooted it is that we have to reduce that salary cap, and we have to find a way of generating that income that the clubs will always break even. As soon as clubs break even, the players should take all the money. But yeah, there's issues there, and that's without even coming back how you, in this environment where with this disease that you're not allowed within 2 meters of each other, how are you going to actually get back to playing? So, I'm listening to all the testing, but the testing is so expensive. So then that's another financial cost for the clubs. And then if people can't go watch it, match day revenue, unlike in football, the money earned on a match day is minute compared to the rest of the money that's in the game. Whereas still for club rugby, it's a massive piece of profit for them. But also, they're not getting BT money at the time, so we have to get the season back underway and we have to get playing. You just don't know which way around is the best way to do it. I just want to see them back. I think most of the players, if they haven't got a vulnerable person in their family or close to them, are keen to get back. But then if you don't get everyone back, is it going to be the same season? It's really difficult, but hopefully, I think they're allowed to start close training again next week, aren't they? And then looking for the 15th of August or something it is to start off. And I just hope they get it. I hope obviously we are on the way out of this virus, and it'll give us all to get back some live sport on telly, because that's all we want to do. I mean, how weird is it with a Saturday where you don't actually turn on the TV to watch some sport? I mean, at least there's some golf now. You can watch golf, but yeah, there's not much. But how they manage it, it's going to be a tricky road. It's not going to be perfect, but people can't expect it to be perfect.
So do you fear for any particular aspects of the game at the minute, whether it's, smaller clubs or whether it's, if salary caps do come in, do players start looking to go abroad?
Now, the thing is, I do worry at the moment. I worry a lot because I worry about what the players are thinking in terms of there are players that are supposed to move at the end of June because their contracts are up, but then the season hasn't finished. So like Johnny May coming back to Gloucester, what happens with that? There are players who are now refusing to take those sort of pay cuts. There are obviously going to be clubs. I think this is going to be a permanent salary cap slash for a while until the game is back on its feet. How do you then, with players with longer contracts who probably won't fit into that, so how do they react to that? If I was a player, I'd buy into my club, and ultimately having a game where you get to play it every week and you still get paid is better for me than breaking the game. So hopefully the players will still think in that way. If you're at a local club, you all pitch in to help out with the club, don't you? The club is bigger than the player, and hopefully that will still stay the same, and the players still have that ethos and work ethic in them. But yeah, So I do worry for quite a bit at the moment. I think this needed to happen, though. I think ultimately we would have come round to this. The marquee players have got to go because it's just ridiculous that you won't put a salary that 2 salaries can sit outside the salary cap. That's not going to help a club at all. But then you talk about exodus of players. Hopefully the RFU will stand firm on their exceptional circumstances rule and they won't be bringing people back because that will keep players in. But if our salary cap's dropped and the wages drop in England, then the wages will drop in France because they'll know that, well, I don't need to pay you that because I know you can't get that in England. So, and there's nowhere else other than France that's going to top your wage up unless you go to Japan or somewhere. But that's not going to be someone's choice for, that's an end of career sort of choice generally. So I think I'm not worried about a mass exodus of players. I'm more just worried about the Premiership because we have to make sure that's strong. So when the Premiership is strong, England's strong, and then you don't really have to worry about international rugby. It takes care of itself. Obviously, all the nations are going to come together and have this chat about a global season. I think that is one way that you could then, if you can get everyone playing their games at the same time, you can then talk about reducing games, making bigger spectacles, bringing more, making a more spectacular game in terms of bringing more sponsors in, then bring the revenue in, and then everyone breaks at the same time. Everyone plays roughly the same amount of games. International period, you don't have England going into a summer test at the end of their season, at the start of when in the middle of the Southern Hemisphere when they're all pumped up, and then when in the October when we're 6 weeks into it and we're all pumped up, they're at the end of their season. I think if we can all just start and end at the same time, that would be the start of being able to then change the game completely for the better, I think.
Okay, well, I won't go too much.
I was going to say, so nothing to do with summer sport. Everyone says, oh, it's just because we want summer rugby. It's not, because the rugby season is so long. You go through the summer anyway. It's more about just having a start point and a finish point. And why would you not want your players to have like Christmas off? So why don't you start in January and finish in September? It just works better.
Interesting thought. Is an interesting thought. I don't want to go too far into our fears and worries at the moment. We've got plenty of good memories we could chat to you about. A lot of the questions that have been coming in so far about them. I'll ask this one from Andy Matthews from Hop, who says, Mike, if England were to play that last World Cup semi-final again against South Africa, what should they do differently?
Oh, look, I think, yeah, well, if England were to play that game again, it's difficult. I think they'd not want to play as well against New Zealand the week before and still win, because I think ultimately it would have fired South Africa up through the roof. But if you look at the way that they played, they didn't do the same things that they were doing before. Obviously, South Africa massively physical defensively, and England ended up going into one-out runners, and they didn't do that the whole tournament. There was a little tip pass from Vunipolas, from Carl Sinclair. There was a lot of variety in the game while still running hard lines, and that just went. Their kicking game wasn't very good for the first time in the tournament. They didn't get on the front foot of that, and they didn't stay. They sort of didn't stay in the arm wrestle. I don't know whether they looked tired. Whether that New Zealand game took a lot out of them. They just looked tired in that. And South Africa, even though they played the most boring semi-final ever seen on the face of the planet the week before, they were the better team on the day. But if England could have just got their speed, they needed speed of ball, and they needed to still keep those little one-out runners with the pops outside, because they were getting hit by 3 men all the time. So they needed to shift the point of attack a bit more and that way they could have sped up the ruck time, which would have allowed them to get the out the back plays that they played all tournament, get their kicking game on the front foot. So that would probably be more. It just they got suckered into what South Africa want. Is South Africa don't make mistakes, but then if you allow them to force their defence on you, they make you make mistakes, and England unfortunately got sucked into it.
And drawing on your experience, I suppose, how easy is it to get sucked into thinking about a final whilst playing a semi-final?
Yeah, I mean, there isn't. I don't think that any of those England players after that New Zealand game would have gone, we're not going to lose next week. I mean, even I would. I was in the stand going, there's no chance they're losing next week after playing like that. But that's the beauty of rugby, isn't it? On any given day, if you don't perform to your percent, and you're only talking 5-6%, then you lose. You lose to a team that you should be. I think if England played that South Africa team 10 times, I think they would come out on top. It'd be close, but I think they would come out on top. I think they were a better team, and they were the best team in that World Cup, but they weren't the best team on that day, unfortunately.
Let's look at a few more questions here. I know we were talking about the return of rugby. I'll cover that one from Ian in a tick. Andrea Borwell-Fox from Borwell. Here's one out of the blue. If you had an invisibility cloak, which member of the royal family would you like to take out for a beer? That maybe you haven't already.
So if, obviously, they're under the invisibility cloak, are they?
Yeah, the pair, yeah, whoever it is.
Who would I go out for a beer with? Well, if I said who do I get on best with and would go out for a beer with, it would probably be, I'm not including my wife in this, obviously. It would probably be Eugenie. I get on with her very well, see her quite a lot. She's a lot of fun. But if I could just go out for a beer and grill them with questions, it would obviously be the Queen. Even when you sit there, you don't grill her. You don't want to be sat there and grilling her, but it'd be quite nice that she's seen just imagine everything that she's seen. Just like, what about Churchill? You tell me about him. What you need? It'd be amazing.
I suppose, yeah, because obviously, we know obviously of your sort of brief audience with the Queen back in 2003, but that was a slightly different experience under different circumstances.
Yeah. I mean, it was weird even then, but we sort of lucky. The boys have been such big fans of the England team around the sort of late '99 to 2003. So Harry and William were always coming to the changing room after games. They went to most of the games, and then obviously my mother-in-law is still patron of Scottish rugby. So she passed over the Calcutta Cup a few times before I met her in a social environment, so it wasn't too bad. Rugby introduced me to the majority of them through time before the social did.
Ian's question was about, so I know we touched on rugby coming back. Ian's at IDR Consultants. Thanks for the question, Ian. It's about full contact and the whole issue surrounding that, and whether it should be the same. Does it stay the same as before lockdown? Is this an opportunity? Is this a bigger opportunity to make changes to that than maybe there had been before?
Yeah, there's been talk. There has been talk a lot about changing up the breakdown and whether you ban the jackler. And for me, the problems at the breakdown mainly come from the referee and the referee's interpretation of it. And the jackler is an issue, but I don't think it's an issue that should be taken out of the game. I think it just needs stronger refereeing on how their body. It goes through phases, refereeing, in terms of what they're looking for. And obviously now it's hands down and arms down before you get cleared out. But the reason why they put their hands down and slide back is because they're off their feet, and there's still people who bridge their legs all the way back and use the body in front of them to take all their body weight, and that. For me, if I'm coming to clear out a ruck and I see there's nothing I can do except hoe into the top of his shoulders and his head. And that is the only way you can try and move them. And that is not what you want. If people are stood and holding their own body weight, there is always an angle where you can get in and underneath them and split their arms, and then you can clear them. And if they manage to stay on, that's a penalty to them. And otherwise, you move it off. What I don't want is people just lying over the top with their feet kicked all the way back. So if everyone moved, they would fall over. Because that means you're at a level where no one coming in to clear you out can shift you, especially if you're a scrum half and you've got a 120 kilo man lying over there. It's just impossible. And now that obviously neck rolls are prevalent, that was one way we used to deal with it. It was just grab hold of someone's neck and you follow the neck. But now with health and safety the way it is, and you're not saying that shouldn't have gone, it should have gone, but we've got to find a way where you keep that contact. Otherwise, we're just going to start taking everything out of it, and it's not going to be the game that we all love. And you can't have that. And I think there are quick fixes to it. I was reading something with Stuart Barnes this morning, and what we're going to see tomorrow in this New Zealand league. Obviously, they've brought in they're trialing some new laws as well. You know, he's always saying it's the speed of the ruck. I mean, we can speed up the ruck if the referees do a better job, but that's going to be the hardest thing. I don't see how you manage the contact around the coronavirus in terms of there's nothing you can do about it. Otherwise, it's not a contact sport. So, yeah, you know, I don't see how you can do it any differently. But whether they'll look at the laws and change them, I hope they don't get rid of a jackler, because I just think you are virtually then playing touch rugby, because once you tackled, you can't do anything to stop the ball. It'll just be bang gone, and you should be running in tries for fun, because you won't have your defence won't have any time to reset, readjust. So you need a little bit of something at the breakdown to just help the game. You don't want it. Well, does everyone want to see 73-70? I don't know. Maybe they do. It's the skill. But a lot of your die-hard rugby fans want the contact side of it. They want to see a contest, and that's what rugby was built on. Is every facet of the game is a contest, and if you start taking away things like the jackler, then it doesn't become a contest. It becomes, until you make a knock on, you can keep the ball, which is rugby league.
I know we've only got a couple of minutes left with you. I'd like to thank Rob Bates, who's upped our bid on our auction lot for charity today to £250. You can try and take him on if you'd like to chuck anything else in, do that. A couple other questions. John Perks just popped this one in. It must be one you hear quite a lot, but I wonder if you do have one particular thing maybe that you think football can learn from the Premiership, or maybe even vice versa, you know, I suppose rules, salary caps, VAR, TMO, that kind of stuff.
One thing that football can learn, or we can learn from football.
Well, I think it's best to head. I think football could learn. I think there's a lot. There's probably more that direction, I'd say.
I mean, it's funny. We had this discussion with Nigel Owens about could he referee a football match, and he reckons he could. And he said, but the problem is there'd be 6 of them off. It'd be 7 aside within 15 minutes. But I think that is one thing that. The problem is with football is no one can accept. So you have a TMO, and then they don't accept it. You know, you have goal line technology, and then they don't accept it. They dispute it. Well, why are you disputing it? There's always, because I think whether you'd say it's because the money is so massive that every result counts. They question everything. Offside is a fact. Because they're drawing lines across the pitch. They have a technology that is telling you, but it's only his toe. So what if it's only his toe? He's offside, and even old players can't accept it. You know, you hear all the pundits going, "Yeah, but it's only a toe." Well, you're bringing it in, so nothing is wrong. He's either offside or he's not. It's black and white. And I think what rugby could teach them is how every player just accepts it and gets on with it, even if they think it's wrong. They might have a chat about it after the game, but in the game, no one argues with it. No one argues with the ref about it. The ref still has this aura of power around a ton of meat, you know, who just want to hit people, and he can, and all of them still call him sir. And I think that is one of the great things in rugby. It doesn't matter where you are up and down the country, that every player still calls the referee sir. He is God. And I think that's one thing you can learn, because then all the kids grow up learning, and it's something that I hope will never change. That you'll end up with an arguing culture with the referee, but he has so many powers that he can use to, if he can send you a red card, yellow card, and he'll always win. Whereas football, not necessarily did they have that, and now there might even be an orange card. So who knows about that?
Watch out. I want to I want to take this question that we've had from Geoff Young of Leonard Curtis, who it's a question about a former teammate of yours, Luke Narroway, and a few of any Worcester Warriors fans may have their ears pricked up there. But the question is this: why is Luke Narroway called the Recycler?
Because he's a horrible man. Naz is a unique human being, and he is called the Recycler because there are numerous examples I could give you, but I will give you one. So he, feel bad telling you, he went to Oktoberfest on a stag do, and everyone's obviously drinking and eating bratwurst and sausages and everything else.
Yep.
And one of the group, maybe it might have been the stag, basically vomited a whole sausage back up. And Naz went recycling and picked it up and ate it.
Okay. Well, we asked. There you are. That's what you get. If you ask.
You asked. That's why he is known as the Recycler. There are other things that he's done that he was also recycled. I'll leave that up to your brain and rugby players generally.
Hold that thought,
and you
I think.
Out what he did, and some of I could one-to-one I'd tell you the story, but wow.
Yeah. Okay, I'll give you that. That's fair enough. Joe from Leonard Curtis, thanks for your question. I don't know if that'll be bagging the prize for best question. Imagine if we took a giant Zoom vote now, it might not, but we'll get onto that. Well, Mike, we really appreciate your thoughts this afternoon, and appreciate your time. And I'd say also, I think we also appreciate you giving us probably the best background we've had, attempting to be outside and bring a little bit of the outdoors in.
I would show you, if it looks nice, I'd turn the camera around and show you, but it's absolutely heaving it down, so I'm not going to bother.
Is that your normal Zoom spot you go for if you're ever on a call?
Well, no, because normally, hasn't it been the thing that everyone who's on the Zoom call now, they have a bookcase in the background? So my usual
go-to, now.
My usual go-to is my room where it looks like I've got a bookcase, but it's just wallpaper. But it looks like, and everyone goes, "Oh, you've got a lot of books back there." No, can't get any of them off the shelf though. It's just wallpaper.
Good. That's where we're all going to look at that wallpaper now. Okay. Well, Mike, thanks for being with us this afternoon. Really appreciate it, and thank you for your chat, and also thank you everyone who's been chipping in on our auction this afternoon. Mike, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, now look, we obviously earlier on attempted to have a little chat with Mr. Doolan. We're going to, I think, leave him to the confines of the internet, and just I think he's kind of been swallowed up a little bit there. I know he had some slides with some interesting, useful stuff, so we'll make that available to anyone who would want it. What I will do, I think, is obviously we'll close that auction now. As we said, we close that when Mike finished this afternoon. And I'll hand you over to the man who can give us details of that final one, and our bottle of wine winner, and the man who's helped put this all together as well. And pray to God his internet's working, because it normally does. Neil Betteridge.
Okay, Hursty. Thanks very much for that. It's prime example of why we've got to get back actually having events. Technology, obviously, we got rid of Michael. Some said his talk was going to be boring, etc., etc. We will never know. I'm sure it would be informative, but I have got a copy of the slides. I will send an email out later, so you can all see what you've missed. So there we go. Many thanks to Robert Bache for bidding £250. So Vince Hopkins, you got off of that, mate. Not a problem. So Bache, thank you very much indeed for your support. And you've got some photographs of one ugly bugger. And actually, I think most of them, Mike, are pre-nosed job as well, mate. I think so. Not the handsome person that you are now. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I can see that. Right, okay, let's go through the thanks. Thank you, really, Michael, for being the sponsor today. And unfortunately, you haven't been able to get some mileage, but we'll work on that for you. And also, there's some questions that you haven't answered. So again, I'll forward those on to you. Mr. Tindall, sir, thank you very much for giving your time up. It was very, very well appreciated. I know you're a busy man, but I think it's got you out of schooling or some other things. When I spoke to you this morning, there was some screaming going on in the background. And I would love to have seen that video of you running away from school like Forrest Gump. That would be, I think that would have been hilarious. But yeah, but thank you very much. And, you know, you've now got a new career in homeschooling, if you so wish, I believe. So, Mike, thanks very much indeed. Appreciate it.
No worries.
Yeah,
thanks, everyone.
Yeah, brilliant. And I mean, we are very lucky to have somebody of Mike's caliber, you know, World Cup winner, etc., etc. Pure nice guy as well. I think that's the most important thing. To come and spend an hour with us on a Friday afternoon. Not yet seen his drink in his hand yet, but I know most of you have got a glass. Your waiter staff at your abode is not very good, mate. I know, it's terrible. The draw for the winning question today goes to Andrea of Borwell. Andrea, well done. I'll be sending you an email through, find out whether you like red, white, or whatever, and we can get that whisked away to you. Kirsty, another congratulations. Trials and tribulations of technical things. Yeah, crisis, you planned for it, you've done well. You're brilliant, you've coped with it. As I say, it'd be all right on the night, all the show must go on. And you've done extremely well. For those who don't know, with Jack, Hurst and myself, we have a WhatsApp group. We have done more messages in between this meeting than we've ever done. But thanks very much, Hursty. And I mentioned Jack. I think you may have been flustered a little bit if you was presenting and producing. But thanks for that. It's great. Couple of little plugs. We're doing these events every 2 weeks until we get back to real time, so we can enjoy ourselves. The next one, we've got the delectable Gail Ems, former badminton Olympian, going to be speaking to us all. But we have got something new that we're bringing out for the 30th of July. We're actually doing a virtual celebrity cheese and wine, Call My Bluff, which we've done many of these live, but it will include consuming wine and a little bit of cheese. There'll be more information coming from in the next week or so. It's based on the old TV program Call My Bluff, or the new version I think is called Would I Lie to You, along those lines. And we're raising funds for Wooden Spoon again. We think they're a great local charity, and Worcestershire is very much rugby orientated. So that's great. And Alistair Hayward Wright from the Hayward Wright Accountancy Group are sponsoring the event. There are some secondary sponsorship opportunities that we'll be talking to people if you so wish. But you know, that's on the 30th of July. There will be information coming out. That's fine. That's all from me. It's a bit longer version to take up for Michael. I do thank you all. If you could all go to gallery view, please, if you would. And if we can do that, I'm just doing it as well. I'd just say cheers to you all and have a great afternoon and stay safe. Thank you very much indeed. Cheers.